All right, Savannah, good morning or good afternoon. I'm your guest host again for Real Estate Real Talk. Taraz Misher filling in for Julia. I'm pretty sure she's out of the country. I don't know where she's at, but she's doing something fun with the kids and the family. And so I'm just filling in for her because I love real estate, because I love Savannah, love what Julia's doing. And I have a great guest with me today, Miss Bonnie Horwath. And she is a social media guru here in Savannah. And she has helped a lot of quite a few real estate agents, and she's been a real estate investor herself. So she's gonna help you guys figure out ways and strategies to and all kinds of things to do with social media, real estate. We'll get into that together. We'll figure something out. All right. So, but first, the way I like to start my shows is with the scenario. So here we go.
Oh boy.
Bonnie, you're walking through your neighborhood. A little kid comes up to you and says, "Bonnie, you're my hero. I want to be like you when I grow up." So in the language that a 10 or 12-year-old can understand, what does it take to be Bonnie Horwath?
It takes a lot of trial and error. You know, you have to have failures in order to have successes. And I think that's important, especially with kids today, because they want that immediate gratification and not to turn it around to social media. But that's where a lot of validation and things comes from. So I think that especially today, children also need to know and embrace their failures to learn from them.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
I think so too. And that's something I've been thinking. So my son's here today. He's usually here with me, but that's something I think of a lot is because we didn't grow up with social media.
No.
You know? So how do you balance that with your kids? Because all their friends are going to be on it, but it's still, it's good, but it's bad at the same time. So how do you balance? What would be your advice for balancing that with children, you know?
I think that technology is phenomenal for kids, especially today. My generation, I guess our generation, you know, we started to learn about technology probably around high school. There was a little bit of it in grade school with the old, DOS system with the green screen and all. And, you know, we had typing class, not computer class and things like that. So transitioning, you know, when we got into college and things like that, we got to learn more about the internet and web browsing and internet startups. Like we were the boom of all of that. Today, it's at a child's fingertips from the time that they're born.
That's right.
So there is an actual issue out there of screen addiction. It's a real diagnosis where kids will go into an absolute tantrum if there isn't a screen in front of them. So balancing that is very important, to have actual books, not just a media book, to have actual play interactions than having an interaction on a game on a screen.
Right.
So I think that balancing that, there should be an allowable amount of time for screen time, and then the rest, that it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It should, you know. But that's also coming from somebody, I don't have children, but I do teach children dance in the evenings.
Oh, nice.
And they're getting their non-screen time with me, which I love.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know you taught dance as well.
I do. It's more of a hobby than anything else, but I've danced since I was little, and it's a passion. So it's kind of like my exercise.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I might introduce you to my daughter then. She's 2, so she's not quite ready. I don't know if you do them early as 2, but maybe.
Where I work, we do have, you know, like an introductory sort of movement. It's called a creative movement class. Would be for that age.
Cool. Yeah, she would love that. She loves to dance. Every time we turn music on, she's just moving.
There you go.
And dancing.
And it's for boys and girls. It's not just, you know, for one gender or another. We've got,
Awesome. Okay. Well, to real estate and to social media. So introduce yourself. Who are you? How'd you get to Savannah? How'd you get into real estate? And then how'd you get into social media?
Okay. My name is Bonnie, and I'm originally from New Jersey. I took a vacation here in the year 2000 and fell in love with the area. It became my twice-a-year vacation spot, even if I could only stay for 2 days. As soon as I would cross over that border that said, "Welcome to Georgia," a feeling of just, I'm home, would come over me. So in 2015 is when I made the decision, and I was down here in January 2016. I was a real estate agent for about 10 years in New Jersey. I was an agent during that market crash when it was like at the worst possible time. And a lot of it was taken to social media, trying to get your listings out there and trying to be different from every other person that was listing. And that's honestly where it all started, was coming up with that creative new way. And then because I had to work in other jobs because the real estate market was so bad, I always ended up handling the social media aspect of the job.
Yeah.
So when I moved down here, I knew that I did not want to get my real estate license again in another state. And I was focusing more on working with social media. So that's what I did. And I just created a company to make it easier rather than working at a bunch of little places on a payroll. And I said, this isn't intuitive. So one of my biggest clients, like one of my biggest questions from clients is, it's 9 out of 10 times it's a real estate agent looking to be different. And that's the proper way to go about it, is to be different and to stand out. It's not just another picture of a house with your little face in a circle. You need to be creative.
That's right. So how did it crash hit pretty hard in New Jersey? I'm assuming it did.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was so bad when people were refinancing their houses at these wonderful rates, and at the end was like balloon payments, and then you were on an adjustable rate mortgage where they were, your payment went down by $400 or $500 a month, but only for a year, and then after that year was up or 2 years was up, all of a sudden you were hit with 3 times that payment, and people were not handling it.
Yeah.
So the foreclosure rate was obscene.
Yeah.
People were losing their houses left and right. Nobody could sell their house. Nobody was buying houses. It was a rough few years.
That's crazy. That was such a terrible situation, and something that could have been avoided.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
It was just a poor decision on, the banking aspect of finances, and they thought it would be great, and it was the opposite.
Yeah, I got my license around 2013. Yeah, 2013. I did it for like 3 years, and I was in Charlotte, and like the effects were still there. You know what I'm saying? Even in 2013, like people were still, especially the agents. Like the agents were still just like, I don't know, just hurting a little bit, and still like they're scrambling. And you could tell that a lot of people had stopped, and it was a small niche group of agents who were really doing well, or who had any kind of clients at all. You know what I'm saying? Just because of that.
It's a very difficult industry when there is a market crash or any fluctuation in the market. That industry becomes the most difficult probably in the country, because you do have that niche of realtors that have been at it for so many years that have that word of mouth, and you see their signs everywhere, and they're going to continue to get the clients. So when you're coming in as a newer agent or a less experienced agent, or you don't have the proper marketing in place, that realtor is starving, for business. And it makes sense, but there is a way around it. You need to really get yourself out there. But you can't change the market and how it is. Right.
Cool. Okay, so what are some of the things you tell your clients about as far as social media goes? So you own, do we say Social Network Solutions?
Social Network Solutions.
Cool. Okay, so you own Social Network Solutions. What are some of the things that you help clients with the most?
Basically, the number one aspect of social media and how you market yourself is being human. It's not about just boosting a post or creating ads and saying, call me. Social media was designed to connect with your friends. So when you think about Facebook, I've actually had clients say to me, well, I don't want to be one of those Facebook junkies where I'm posting pictures of my dinner, and that does happen, but it's a different entity. That's your social page. There's a business page. And in order to garner the response that you need on a business page is you have to become human. You can't just promote your business. One of the number one industries out there, believe it or not, Stride Right Shoes. Okay. And they created a group of moms and dads across the world that come in to talk about anything to do with parenting. So, and I use this term, I say, and this is how, from breast pumps to shoes, they will discuss anything over 210,000 in this community.
Wow.
Do you think if they need a pair of shoes, where are they going to go?
Right. Straight to Stride, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But they participate in that conversation. So they have moms on their team that if somebody asks a question, they respond. That's what everyone's business social media should be. It should be an interaction, not just a promotion. And I think real estate agents especially have an opportunity here. There's one gentleman that I've been speaking with. I'm going to be meeting with him later this week. And he told me a great story about how him and his wife like to take walks around Savannah. And they got the idea one night to do the historic doors of Savannah. And he went around and he just took pictures of the doors and then wrote a little bit about each location that they were at. And
I think I've seen that, actually.
A huge response.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he went from being a realtor to being a community guy and to explaining something that interests more than just the real estate seeker. So that's what social media is about. It's about bringing yourself out there in your interests as well as your business.
That's awesome. That's a great idea. So like, say I'm a real estate investor then. Like, what would you, just hypothetically, like, what would you, as a real estate investor, what would you do to become more human on social media?
Anything that you enjoy, anything that has to do with the community. Are you involved with the Low County Down Syndrome Society? Are you involved with Kicklighter? Anything that you do community-wise, bring it to Facebook. Let them know. Do you donate to Goodwill? There's a Goodwill luncheon that meets once or twice a month, I believe. And they kind of get into their business practices and how they work. You can very easily become part of their team by inviting people to donate and creating a group or a discussion on your business page. And for a real estate investor, if you think about it, they're investing in real estate. How many times do they go into the houses and there's a lot of stuff to get rid of? You know, there's a lot of connections to be made to bring out your human side and show that you're more than just buying houses and flipping them. You are a community person that is interested in giving back as well.
That's gold. I think that's gold right there. So all the investors out there listening, please take that to heart. Seriously. Okay, cool. So social media, like, what attracted you to social media? Like, why do you love it? Why do you love doing it?
It's so funny because I never would have seen myself doing this as like my own business. I wanted to own a store one day. I wanted a storefront and I wanted to sell pretty things, you know. I mean, that's just, I have hobbies. I'm crafty. I'm a writer. I've written several books and I make jewelry. The jewelry I'm wearing right now is actually handmade by me. But when I started doing other people's social media and I started to see the response and I started to see the interaction, I realized that I could help so many of these local businesses that don't get it. They're just posting ads and they're not getting it. When we were talking about children and the screen time and everything, if you look at something as simple as a Google search, how do you get to number one in a Google search?
I don't really know.
You have to know what search engine optimization is.
Okay.
Now, Google's algorithm that they've created to get to the top is one of the most guarded secrets in Google. Nobody has that algorithm and nobody knows how to manipulate it. But there is a direct correlation, and this is directly from Forbes magazine, that the more social media you have, the more likes, shares, interactions, they're starting to see that those are the ones that are getting boosted. And the number one thing people have to look out for, and especially real estate agents, because there's so many of them out there, that they want to be that number one agent at the top of the Google search, and they're thirsty for it. So you will be approached and you will get an email that'll say, we guarantee you to be the number one Google search result in only 90 days for X amount of dollars, whether it's like, and it's ridiculously low, like $200, $300, $400. Yeah. How that's being accomplished is they're paying an outsourced company pennies to write a fake review to put under your name to review you. This generation of millennials, they're too smart for this. And so are we in our generation, because now we're starting to see that person doesn't even live here. How did they ever meet this person? Or this isn't written in a language that translates well. So is this an authentic? And they're becoming that number one Google search is now people are going to number 5, 6, 7 because they're not trusting that number 1 anymore because of companies that are doing that.
Right.
And it's being as organic as possible. And that's why it's so important, especially for an agent or somebody where it's a very saturated market where there's a lot of you to be different and to be human.
Okay. Awesome. Good stuff. What did you do to be different? Like when you were an agent for 10 years, that's a long time. So you knew the ropes. You saw your successes and your failures and all this stuff. So like, what did you do to be different yourself? Or since you're not an agent anymore, you can give away your secrets, right?
I can give away a little. I was working with a company in New Jersey that unfortunately it had a lot of bylaws to the social media aspect.
Okay.
And a lot of companies do have that where they can't post certain things you have to get it approved from, company logo and things like that. But to get around that, I would just hold conversations.
Okay.
So on our home Facebook page and things like that, and actually we had MySpace. That's how long ago we're going back here. We would start conversations and discussions about different things in the neighborhood. 4th of July weekend, for example, who's going to be down at South End for 4th of July, or who's going down to Ocean City and all places in New Jersey. But,
Gotcha.
tell us your story. And when we started to engage customers, that's when our phone would start to ring. So, and then I took to, rather than being an agent, I became a referral agent because I was the one handling social media. So the calls would come in and I would delegate them out because they wanted me on social media continuing the conversation. I was like, okay, I could make more money if I just started a business.
That's right. Okay. So when I've interviewed a lot of people now, and when I meet somebody, I can tell pretty much immediately how smart they are. You're pretty brilliant. So like I think so, because some of the stuff you're saying about social media is just, to me, it's brilliant. So like who are your mentors? Like who are you learning from?
There was a book that it's so funny. Okay, I'm giving away my trade secrets here, people. When I first started doing this, I really didn't have anybody that I was looking up to or turning to. It was all on my own. I never researched a social media book. I just went with what I knew. And when I started this business and things started to grow a little bit, I did need to hire some help because I can't design. So I do have a great, I'm going to name drop here. Her name is Sarah Walters.
Okay.
She is phenomenal with UX web design, web design. She's got her master's. It's just beautiful work that she does. So I decided that if she wants to help me in the social media aspect, I need to give her a reference guide of some sort to get her up to date in case I need her to help.
Right.
And I came across a book called Likeable Social.
Okay.
And I don't have the author's name off the top of my head. But as I was reading his book, I grabbed my highlighter and I started highlighting things. And it wasn't because I was learning something. It was because it's everything that I've told a client in my entire career.
Wow.
And it validated me in such a way that I wasn't exactly expecting, because I just thought I was kind of doing my own thing, but I was actually doing something phenomenal that's working. And it's in his book. So that is something that it humbled me as a person, because I was like, wow, I can't believe that there's somebody out there that's telling someone the exact same business. So I'm doing something right is how I felt.
That's awesome.
And I've taken some quotes. I have a quote that I actually wrote down today. Eric Qualman.
Okay.
He is actually an American author of Socialnomics. And his quote that I'm actually going to be putting online very shortly is, "We don't have a choice on whether we do social media. The question is how well we do it." And I think that's a brilliant quote.
So what's the difference between doing social media and doing it well? What's the difference between that?
Humanizing yourself and your brand. Becoming part of your community, because that's what it is. It's social media. It's not advertising media.
Right.
That's not going to garner you. It doesn't guarantee your return on investment, your ROE. It's not going to guarantee that you're going to get that customer, but all it takes is that one conversation that they've participated with, and say their neighbor, their friend, their relative says, "Hey, do you happen to know somebody that does such and such?" "Oh, actually, I do. You've got to check him out on Facebook. He's got a great little community that I follow." You never know where it's going to come from.
That's true.
And that's why it's so important to be different and to realize that social media isn't your avenue just for advertising and boosting yourself and patting your own back and listing your accomplishments. You have to be a member. You have to engage. You have to be social. And I think real estate especially, There's so many real estate agents. They're all over.
Yeah.
What makes you different? Why am I going to call you instead of my neighbor who just got his real estate license 3 days ago?
Right.
That's what's going to set you apart.
That's awesome. This is good stuff here. My mind is blowing continuously.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the next question. Have you seen any real estate agents that are doing it well? You don't have to name drop if you don't want to.
I have.
Okay.
I have. I actually have. And I'm not going to name drop, obviously, but it's actually somebody that I went to high school with that still lives in New Jersey.
Okay.
And because I'm friends with her, on Facebook, and I see what she's posting. And that example that I used earlier with the house and then your picture in the circle by the house, I took that because that's what she keeps posting. And every time I see it, I'm just shaking my head going, oh, you have to be original, sweetheart. You have got to change this. And I want to say something to her, but it's not like we're that close. And I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be I don't want it to come off that I'm being nasty, but it's like, it's not working.
Yeah. Right. Man.
And so, you've got to be original. And yes, you have to show your pictures of houses and everything, but when that's all you're doing is inundating pictures of houses with your bright smiling face in a circle saying, call me for more information on this property. Everybody's doing that.
Yeah. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't
Not
work.
like that. Yeah.
No.
Because I tried it and it didn't work. It didn't work.
It doesn't work. You've got to engage them in another way and then say, hey, if you have the opportunity, come check out this house. If you're doing an open house, you can make it a social media event.
Mm-hmm.
You can advertise, hey, we're having an open house, but I'm inviting, and then bring some part of the community so that they can either learn something or participate in something, or say, if you come to our open house, why not bring a bag that we're going to donate, our real estate company is going to donate this to Goodwill. Or you've got to be creative. You're not come for baked cookies and coffee.
Yeah.
Everyone does that. Let's be original. Think outside the box and think how you can give back to the community while engaging the community, and you're going to have a success story.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when you're just doing the house shot and the head logo, it's kind of like cold calling, but even worse. You know what I mean? Because there's no, like you said, there's no you're not being human. You're not connecting with people. You're not engaging with people.
No.
You're just asking.
Personally, I would like to see a real estate agent with like a cup of coffee, their hair messed up, makeup dripping down their face, like, call me to check out this property, but probably I'm going to be late. That's going to grab, because that's me. I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
So that one realtor that thought outside the box to do something honest and human of, if you're going to come to this open house at 8:00, this is the me that you're going to get. Deal with it. That's funny. That's going to make me laugh. And chances are I'm going to call you to be my real estate agent because you're a hot mess, just like I am at 8 a.m. So
That's right. That's awesome. Okay. We're going to take a quick break in a second. Like, is there anything we left out? Anything you want to mention?
I guess I'd like to say, to sum up this little segment here, taken directly from Forbes magazine, people like doing business with people, not with businesses.
And what does that mean to you? Being human.
Being human. Being real. You have to be real.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Be real, especially you real estate agents and you real estate investors out there. So you also, real quick, you also were an investor, right? You've invested. No, you never invested in homes yourself?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I wanted to do real estate investing, and it just never panned out because this kind of took over and became something incredible.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, and I only asked that because I think the major portion of her audience, Julia's audience, are investors. And you should she has a pretty nice YouTube following as well. So I'd like to introduce you to Julia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think you guys. Well, you'll be able to help her, but maybe she'll be able to help you as well.
That sounds great.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we are going to take a break. Everybody out there listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me today as I fill in for Julia. We will be right back to put Bonnie Horwath through the lightning round. So this is Bonnie Horwath of Social Network Solutions. What's the best way people can find you if they want to reach you?
You can reach me on Facebook, of course, facebook.com/@your SNS. And that's YOUR SNS, Social Network Solutions.
Okay. YOUR your SNS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll be back in just a second. All right, Savannah, welcome back to Real Estate Real Talk. I'm the guest host, Taraz Misher. I normally host the Savannah Business Showcase, which comes on right before this program. I'm filling in for Julia, and I have a great guest today for you guys, Miss Bonnie Horwath. She's the owner of Social Network Solutions here in Savannah. She's a former real estate agent for 10 years. She's done a lot of work with, from what we heard earlier, taking social media platforms and making the business more human, which is just a beautiful way to put it. That's so easy to understand and so easy to implement if you work with somebody like her. So, Bonnie, we're going to put you through the lightning round.
All right.
Are you ready?
Sure. Let's see. We'll find out.
All right. So with the lightning round, you can ask these questions as short or as long as you want to. The idea is just to motivate people, inspire people a little bit, and also just to find out a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So not hard at all. What did you want to be as a kid, and how does that relate to your current business?
Oh, I wanted to be everything when I was a kid. My very, very first memory was I wanted to be a ballerina. And then as I danced longer, I wanted to be a Broadway tap dancer.
Okay. Can you tap dance?
So I do. That's what I teach.
Okay.
Awesome. In the evenings for fun. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And
awesome. I used to try to pretend to tap dance when I was a kid, so that was fun. That was fun. I put on my church shoes, just be around the house pretending to tap.
It's a lot of fun,
yeah.
And it's a great way to when you're angry, you put on tap shoes, and the harder you tap, the better it sounds, and it gets out a lot of frustration. So it's probably why I still tap today.
How have you approached failure in life?
Wine.
Okay.
You wanted me to be honest here. No, seriously, when you fail at something, you kick back, have a glass of wine, and you figure out a way to do it better.
Okay. So that said, tell us a story about a failure.
Oh my goodness. One of the very first clients that I ever had with social media here in Savannah did not work out. It was a communication barrier, and that's one of the things is that you've got to communicate. And when that crashed and burned, and I was all of a sudden like blocked on Facebook from personal and like everything else, and I had to revisit it and see what was it, where did it go wrong, and I was able to localize it to that communication barrier. It was a miscommunication between that client and myself. So I didn't get back into it until I fixed what those issues were. And that was gold for me, because that's now with I do have a contract, and that's the reason I created a contract, because in it specifically says that you do understand there has to be a level of communications, because I can't just post for somebody in their voice. I need to know your voice, and if I don't know your voice, how can I post for you? Yeah. So I actually have it as in the contract that we have to communicate. If I text you, or if I email you and I ask you a question, and you don't get back to me, don't expect a random post to pop up, because I don't know how to approach it. I need to learn to. Yeah.
And that says a lot about your character too, as well, that you didn't quit after a terrible, No,
you can't quit. You have to figure out, you have to fix it. Same thing with social media. When somebody, I've had clients ask me, oh, well, if we have negative comments, delete them. No. That's essentially hanging up on a person on a phone, or telling them that their comment isn't worth your response. You have to address it. And, with this customer that I'd had, in that lack of communication, I had to learn from it, and I had to face it head on and fix it. And that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
And that's a good point. Yeah. People want to delete the negative comments and stuff, but it doesn't work, because it just makes the person madder. And so I'm on Reddit a lot, and the people who respond to the negative comments, somewhere down the line in the chain, the person who had the complaint at first, they usually are okay at the end.
Right, it gets resolved.
It gets resolved, yeah.
And if you have a good social following on your social media accounts, sometimes it's your best clients that will come to bat for you. And that's very important, because now it's not you giving some formulated corporate response of, well, we're sorry for your inconvenience, and we understand how that must make you feel. If I read that on social media, I'm smacking my forehead going, oh God, no. Why? You have to actually address it and say, okay, I made a mistake. Now we're going to fix it. And even if you don't say it, if somebody else does, that's important. Well, I made the mistake of not having a contract in the beginning and not clearly defining what communication meant. And now I have that communication.
Yeah.
And it's been much better, and it's been very successful.
Awesome.
But it was a failure. That very first client, I failed.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to a new entrepreneur who has their first client and they having a tough time with them? So like, what advice would you give them?
You've got to reevaluate it. You've got to actually backtrack and see where it started to go wrong, and at what point would you say I failed? Because obviously you got that client to begin with, or that customer to begin with, and things were going good. You have to find that point of when it started to go downhill and reevaluate it and do what you can to correct that, whether it's on your part or the customer's part, or chances are it's both parts.
Next question. Who influenced you early in life, and who's your mentor now?
Early in life, I would say one of the biggest influencers was my best friend's aunt.
Okay.
And she came to live with the family, my friend Lauren, her family, when I was about 7 or 8. And she had Down syndrome. And she probably gave me more insight into life than any other person on the planet. She was carefree, she was determined, she was fun, and she didn't let any aspect of her Down syndrome dictate her life. If she wanted something, she went for it.
Right.
And she did it with such an amazing attitude and a smile. And that made me realize that you can't take life so seriously, and you have to be happy no matter what the circumstance. So she was probably my greatest influence as a child. That was a wonderful thing to grow up with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And that's the same, that's the same, reaction. That's the same thing I learned right after college for 3 years. I worked with like autistic children and children who were severe and profoundly disabled, and Down syndrome and autism and schizophrenia and all these different things. And as I guess typical people like us, like the people with developmental disabilities, we feel bad for them in a certain way because we're not around them as much. But when you get around them, you realize that they sometimes have life figured out more than we do.
Exactly.
See,
I can't feel bad. I feel it's a different feeling. I feel almost honored to have met them. So I remember shopping at a major store one day, and I can kind of get a read for different people, and there was a father walking around with his 2 children, and the one child had Down syndrome, and you could kind of see like she was kind of shy to interact and everything, but she kept smiling. And I just turned around and I stopped my cart and I looked at her and I was like, oh, where's your crown? And she kind of like looked at me, and I was like, princesses should be wearing crowns at all times. And so I had this little conversation with her, and at the end her father, he kind of looked at me and he was like, thank you for that. Yeah. He's like, not many people would interact with her of their own volition. And, he's like, that you just made her day and you made my day. He's like, I really appreciate that. And I said, she's first of all, she was gorgeous, second of all, she just had this light about her and this smile, don't be afraid, like say hi. Yeah. And, that pretty much, that was my biggest influence, is that it made me appreciate and be able to give. I made her smile, and that's all that mattered. That's right. Who's your mentor now? I wouldn't necessarily say mentor as in mentoring me in my career or anything like that, but just my mentor of who I look up to the most would be my father now. You don't really appreciate it when you're a child. You kind of look at it and nobody wants to tell their parents anything. No one wants to do anything. But my father is probably my number one fan. He has always been there to support me. And not financially. My dad's not going to bail me out of a situation. He's going to say, I told you so. Have you done it this way? Yeah. And that's made me learn so much in life that it's irreparable. Like my dad's great. I have the best dad. Awesome.
Advice for new entrepreneurs?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Ask a lot of questions. Admit when you're wrong, and research. Those are the most important things. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. You're passionate about it. That if you fail, you're not just going to run with your tail between your legs, and you're going to fight to keep it going. If you can't answer all of those questions like yes, 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 then you're in the wrong business. Right.
How did you get your first client?
Okay, my first client with Social Network Solutions, or my first experience with doing social media and sticking with it.
Whichever one is a better story.
Whichever one's a better story.
Whichever way you want to tell, it doesn't matter.
That's the thing. I kind of fell into it when I was in real estate. That's kind of how it all started.
Okay. That's right.
It wasn't really something that I was seeking out to do. It just kind of fell into my lap, and I ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
My first client with Social Network Solutions, basically it was an establishment that I frequented and brought up that I had started my business. They were like, oh, I could use that, and started. And where it failed wasn't necessarily with that, but it was with another person that was in that same, and that was the lack of communication one.
Gotcha.
So I didn't go back to that establishment for quite some time because I was like, I kind of feel weird coming in here.
Right, yeah.
So it kind of took a lot of courage to be able to walk back and be like, yeah, I screwed up. Sorry, guys. We kind of screwed up together, but it's okay. I'm going to take blame for this one. So that's the story.
Here's some wide. Let's move on. I got you. Okay. What's one thing in your business that drains you of energy, and what's one thing that excites you?
Everything about it excites me for the most part. I love finding that new thing that you wouldn't have thought would work. Like I have a client, and I did speak with him this morning, and he gave me permission to use him as my example.
Okay.
His name is James Thornton. He's with Innovative Health and Benefit Solutions. And he brought me on about just over 3 months ago. And I never thought that videos would be something to help him with his healthcare business. And it's wonderful because Jim, he's like, the only way to describe Jim is Savannah dad.
Okay.
He's everybody's dad in Savannah. He just has that demeanor about him. He's very welcoming. He's very down to earth. And he has this sense of humor that's hidden because he's such a proper, Southern gentleman. And then this sense of humor comes out, and I have outtakes from videos where I'm laughing so hard, and I'm from Jersey. I get that cackle laugh, that Jersey. And I can't wait to put together like a spoof, like reel of bloopers with Jim, but videos. And I never would have thought of going into that would be something that would become our thing. Videos are great for real estate agents, and they're great for, other businesses, and, Instagram for if you're a photographer and things like that. But videos seem to be, and he does them so well. Yeah. And that's what excites me.
Okay.
And I guess the part that would drain me is when you have that client that can't make a decision. It's, okay, we can go with A, we can go with B, we can go with C. Oh, I don't know, whatever you think is best. Well, I kind of need a direction because A, B, and C takes us into this direction, that direction, or another direction. So you've got to lead me. It's your business. So that can be draining because sometimes people don't know, and sometimes it's a trial and error to find it. Right.
Awesome. I was listening to a podcast. Are you a podcast listener at all?
I am.
But I just heard it, and they did. It's from Buffer, The Science of Social Media, and it's really good. I listened to one on YouTube, and it was like YouTube Marketing 101, and the name of it is How We Grew Our Channel by 59% in 30 Days. So it's really good, and a lot of it's just like YouTube's owned by Google, so it's just when you're writing the titles, it's all about SEO. You still have to think that this is these are SEO terms even in the YouTube time. I know I'm sure you're doing this already, but just throw it out there.
Yes. Any type of social media, even though, and Google, they absolutely will stand by their statement that their algorithm has nothing to do with social media. To this day, I was just looking at an article yesterday, as a matter of fact, and there's absolutely no correlation. And it's being proven that that's not accurate because people, the likes, the shares, the more social networks that they're on, you start putting them all together, and all of a sudden, without paying these outside sources to write these fake reviews specifically on Google, and they're coming up to number one on the Google search, and there is a correlation, whether or not it's written into their algorithm or not. There is a definite correlation.
Do you consider YouTube social media?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And right now, believe it or not, only 9% of small businesses are utilizing YouTube as a resource.
Really? That's small?
That's small. And YouTube currently has more users per day and as a whole than Facebook. And Facebook has 2 billion users right now, over 2 billion users.
That's crazy. Because what is it, like 3 billion uploaded a day, 3 billion videos uploaded a day? It's something outrageous.
I haven't looked in a couple of months, so the figure wouldn't be 100% accurate. But yeah, it's millions and millions and millions of views a day. And even people are thinking, okay, well, what does a business over in, Canada have to do with a local business in Savannah? And again, it's a connection. You don't know who is going to see something and know you. For example, the person who helps me edit my videos, he lives in Canada. So you have no idea who's going to see it, who's going to be out there. And we're a tourist town.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, over in England is coming to Savannah for the historical aspect, and they're going to come down to River Street, and all of a sudden they see a business advertising, and it says Savannah. Well, they just bought plane tickets to Savannah.
That's right.
So now you found someone. Just don't know who you can find.
Favorite book?
We would be here all day.
You're a reader.
Literally all day. If my nose isn't buried in a book reading it, I'm writing one. Okay. So I'm going to give you my favorite book series, and it's totally crazy, but it's going to give you an insight to me. The Black Dagger Brotherhood by J.R. Ward. She is an amazing author. There's, I want to say 18 or 19 books right now in her series.
Oh, man. And
she has a sub-series that she created off of it that I'm also reading. She's just amazing. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with social media at all. It's just a fun series to read.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is it about? I'm assuming is it nonfiction?
It is nonfiction. Okay. Here's my geek side. I'm going to geek out on you here. It's actually about vampires.
Okay.
It is. Okay. But it's not the corny, glittery, glowing,
I got you.
Kill me now, vampire. No, it's this is hardcore. It's very hardcore, and she's amazing. I didn't even know J.R. Ward was a woman until I went to a book signing, and I was like, what? Because her writing style, the way that she can actually write from a male vampire's point of view, you're like, there is no way, and it's a woman, and it shocked me. I had no idea.
I wonder if she did a pen name like that. I'm sure it's a real name, but I wonder if she does an author name like that on purpose.
I think it's just her first and middle initialed.
But instead of putting, I don't know what her first name is, Jen, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
She did J.R.
J.R.
So it's so you don't know if it's a man or woman.
Exactly. But she's, excuse the term, she's badass. There's no other way to describe her. And that's kind of an exciting thing. It's an aspect of me, when I want to get, to something, because there's a lot of, they're fighting and it's a whole war, but she creates a whole world based around something, and there's an actual glossary of terms in the front of every one of her books because she created her own language.
Wow.
It's amazing. Yeah, she's phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she's like,
great respect for her.
So she's like what's the author of Harry Potter?
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, so she's like J.K. mixed with Snoop Dogg, creating her own language a little bit. That's pretty cool. All right, so a few more and we'll get out of here. So there's a concept called the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle. 20% of the actions you take equal 80% of the results. So in business and social network solutions, what are the small things you do every day or every week that get you the most results?
Well, 80% of it, like I said, is social. And 20% of it is boosting or marketing a product or a service that you have. And a lot of businesses have a hard time understanding that it's really only 20%, sometimes less. It's social media. You have to be social. It has nothing to do with your business and what you're doing. 80% of it is engaging and being social with something that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Have you read Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook? Have you heard of that?
You want to repeat that?
I'm so sorry.
What was it?
Gary V. Have you heard of him? Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, I have not.
You are brilliant. If you haven't heard of him and you're still saying that. So jab, 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 right hook. He's basically saying the same thing. Like the social media, exactly what you just said. So you want to jab 4 times or 5 times or 10 times and then hit them with a right hook, which is the call to action, which is the selling. But the jabs are like giving.
Exactly.
Like give, then ask. Yeah. So that's exactly what you said. Definitely look up Gary V.
I will.
He's like, I want to say he gets like, I heard him say once, I don't know how true this is. It's probably fairly true, but he was like, he's doing 9 events this year and he's going to make like $10 million just from speaking, which is crazy, right?
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Just from speaking anyway. He's a pretty cool guy. A lot of energy. Kind of annoying, but he's his message is good. I don't watch a lot of them, but he's worth checking out.
Okay.
Okay, back to you. Once again, I said a few more. Favorite quote? You already mentioned a quote, but if you have another one, is there a quote that's been a mantra that you live by?
I wish I thought of writing this one down. I don't have the exact quote. There's something to do with there's nothing more comforting than a warm nose, basically, because I have a retired service dog. Mm-hmm. She was my service dog.
Okay.
I actually dislocated my knee when she was just a puppy, and she had to learn how to walk when I was on crutches for a long time. Yeah. And it was something to the effect of it. It's actually on my personal Facebook page, but it's there's nothing more comforting than a warm nose. Mm. And that's how I go to sleep every night, with her little warm nose right against me. So that's awesome. My mantra for life. You need a dog. You need to have a dog snuggling with you. It's an amazing feeling. That's
awesome. 2 more. Advice for entrepreneurial kids. So if a teenager, early teens came up to you and they ask you for advice to starting a business.
You kind of asked something similar earlier. It's don't give up, persevere through it, but you have to ask yourself the questions like, if I fail, am I going to walk away or am I going to fix it? Can I do this? Is this something that I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this something that I want to pass on? And am I proud of what I'm doing? So as long as you are doing something that you love, you really believe in it, and you're willing to fail at it more than once and go back at it, then go at it with guns blazing. Yeah. Okay. One more. If you had a superpower or ability, what would you choose and why? I love this question. There's so many that I want. To be a vampire. Oh, I would love to be a vampire. No, I already am, because I'm a night owl. So I do most of my work at night. Like usually, like I'm updating phase. It's like midnight, 1 o'clock. And people are like, "What are you doing?" I think I would like the invisibility cloak. To be the fly on the wall. Mm-hmm. I think that would be. I mean, everybody wants like the ability to fly or something like that, but I don't know. I think I want that invisibility. That way, when I need my time and my space, I'm not here. I'm invisible. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that. I think you're the first person to say a cloak. Some people have said invisibility before, but the cloak is a good aspect because you can take it off. You can take it off. You don't have to be invisible all the time. Yeah. You can hang it up, pass it down. Yep. Like, here, I need to be away from you. Put the cloak on. That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, Bonnie, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. You're brilliant. Just to remind people, from some of the stuff I got from you is to be human on social media. It's social, so you have to interact. You have to engage. You have to be person. Have to be a person, even your business, and that's a part of your branding. So you want to be strategic with that as well. So and be creative. That's right, to stand out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how can people reach you? If you have any last words, feel free. Like I said, you can reach me on Facebook. It's at your SNS, or you can call me directly at 912-844-0584. Awesome. Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for listening. Go out there this week. Be impactful. Do something good. Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you guys for allowing me to be a guest host this week. Thank you, Julia. Same to you. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.